This is the craziest phone I've ever tested. It has all the main features of a decent phone, but instead of trying to cut corners like Samsung and Apple, they decided to go the other direction and put in as many features as they can. For example, it has two normal cameras, one of them is a 1-inch sensor from Sony, but it also has a thermal camera. Usually, phones with a thermal camera don't have a night vision camera, but this one also has a night vision camera that lets you see in the dark. It has 16GB of RAM and 1TB of storage, plus 10,600 mAh battery. And all of these specs are double those of conventional flagship phones. They also added a second screen on the back that you can use as a clock or viewfinder. Also, they didn't remove the headphone jack or the SD card slot. The phone is called Ulefone Armor 28 Ultra. For disclosure, Ulefone sent me this test unit, but they have no control over what I say in this video. If you hear me being excited, it's because I actually am excited. So if we say that S25 Ultra is the Ultra of normal phones, this phone is the Ultra of rugged phones. The design of the phone is rugged, meaning you get solid protection that makes the phone shockproof. I already dropped it twice, face down onto the asphalt from 1.5 meters, and except for a small dent, it is in a great shape since the edges protect the glass. The phone is also IP69 rated, and the ports are sealed. It weighs around 450 grams, almost double that of conventional flagship phones, but for a good reason. The phone has a 10,600 mAh battery instead of the usual 5,000 mAh battery. On the right side, you get the camera button, the power button, which also works as the fingerprint scanner, and the clicky volume buttons. On the back of the device, you get 4 cameras, a normal wide lens, an ultra-wide lens, a thermal imaging camera, and a night vision camera. The NFC sensor is also there, and Google Pay is supported. On the left side of the phone, there's a SIM card tray where you can also insert a micro SD card. You don't need any tool to open the SIM card tray if you have longer nails. There is an action button that lets you customize anything you want, and there's also a US Smart port if you have a device that uses that protocol. On the bottom of the device, you get the charging port, which is sealed. On the top, you get the best part of the phone, which is the headphone jack, which we'll talk about later. There is also an IR blaster on top to use the phone as a remote. The display is a 120Hz AMOLED panel, which is great news. Usually, rugged phones use a LCD panel, which isn't efficient and drains the battery quickly. The screen is smooth and has punchy, vivid colors. I didn't have any problems with it. It also gets plenty bright. You really don't need a case for a phone like this, but they also have a case that you can buy, and it goes like this. And also you can attach it to, for example, your backpack, because, hear me out, they also have a campus. Ta-da! I mean, it's quite cool. I found the case more useful than I thought when we were walking around, as it made the phone more accessible. They also put in every satellite system you can think of, including GPS, GLONASS, and Galileo. You can use the second screen on the back for different things. If you swipe to the left, you get to play music. On the main screen, you see the clock and you can customize the style too. If you swipe down, you can see the remaining battery on the device. The first swipe to the right takes you to the compass, the second swipe brings you to the calendar, and the third swipe brings you to the camera app. That's one of my favorite features of this phone because it means you can take selfies with the main camera and use the second screen as a viewfinder when you are shooting a video of yourself. So instead of going for the telephoto lens, they went for 2 other lenses. One of them is for thermal imaging and the other is a night vision. The thermal imaging camera can be very useful. I'm currently using another rugged phone with thermal imaging, which is going to be replaced by the Ulefone 28 Ultra soon. I use it when I need to check temperatures in the basement. The frame rate is better than other rugged phones with thermal imaging that I have had so far, and the resolution is upscaled to 640 by 512 using an AI chip. I took this photo from a meter away and the range is good. You can also take a video with a thermal camera app, as you can see here in this video. This is something I'm personally going to use a lot when I'm doing phone comparisons. The phone also has night vision. This is something super useful when you are camping. I personally wish more phones had this sensor, and whenever I go on a multi-day hiking trip and stay in the tent, there's always at least one situation where I wish I had night vision. You can also take a video of the ghost in your basement doing a TikTok dance with the night vision sensor and post it online. Maybe you get some followers, who knows? Naturally, you can also take pictures using the main camera app with the night vision mode. They also have an ultra-wide and a wide lens that you can take images and also videos, and hear me out, up to 8K. The main camera is producing nice looking pictures. What was surprising to me is that the skin tones are actually great. The sensor is a Sony IMX989, which is used in a lot of high-end flagship phones. Even in low light, the pictures look decent. There is enough bokeh in the background, and I like how they look. What was very surprising to me is how much better the night photos were in this camera compared to my Galaxy S25 Ultra. The first shot was taken with the same shutter speed, and the photo on the Ulefone is just brighter and much less noisy compared to the Galaxy photo. The same goes for the second photo. The Ulefone produced a better picture overall, the bokeh is nicer, and the image is less noisy. You can also use the beauty filter in the camera app. Here the picture on the left was taken with the beauty filter on, which smoothed the skin a bit, but the picture on the right doesn't have the beauty filter. There is also an ultra-wide camera, which is a wise choice since this is an outdoor phone and it's important to have an ultra-wide lens to capture sceneries. You can also take photos in portrait mode, which artificially boosts the bokeh to create better background and subject separation. The 4K video is sharp and has the right amount of detail. It is a bit on the more contrasty side. In 8K, you get a bit of extra sharpness and detail. Overall, the color processing looks good, and honestly, it caught me off guard. I really didn't expect the rugged phone to produce such a great imagery in both photos and videos. Of course, having a 1-inch Sony sensor helps. Let's also test the mic and selfie camera.
Sounds very passive aggressive. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. Is it Taylor Swift?
Ouch.
For performance, the phone is sporting the Dimensity 8300 Plus, which is basically the second best performing chipset from MediaTek currently on the market. I ran Geekbench to test the phone's performance, and in this test, the phone got a score 2100 for single core and 7300 for multi-core. This is a slightly better performance than the S24 Ultra and iPhone 15 Pro Max. I also ran the 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme test, and the phone got a score of 4400. This is again one of the best performing scores you can get from a phone in 2025. As you can see, it puts the phone at the far end of the bell curve in terms of performance. In real life use, this means your phone can play a heavy game like Genshin Impact on high setting at 60 frames per second without frame drops, as you can see here. This is also a great phone for gaming since the battery won't run out anytime soon. Regarding battery life, I inserted a 5G SIM card and used the phone for 3 days. I watched a lot of YouTube, used the camera, played some Genshin Impact, browsed the web, and ran a few benchmarks. The phone still had 36% battery left after 3 days of use and over 10 hours of screen on time. With my use, I can personally go 4 to 5 days without needing to charge it. The phone also supports wireless charging up to 50 watts. The nice thing about it is that it also supports reverse wireless charging, meaning you can charge your wireless accessories with the phone. There is a fast charger included in the box, and according to Ulefone Labs, the phone can be charged to 40% in just 10 minutes. Rugged phones usually have better sounding speakers because they have fewer physical limitations, and the Ulefone 28 Ultra is no exception. The sound is loud and clear. The headphone jack is also great. It supports my Sennheiser 120 OEM headphones, and I was a bit surprised that the sound is so clean and clear. It is definitely a plus for this phone, especially since a lot of rugged phones are starting to remove headphone jacks. Kudos to Ulefone for keeping it. The software is clean Android, there is no bloatware, they just include some default apps including the thermal camera app, and I didn't get any advertisement or suspicious notifications during my time using it. Overall, it runs very smoothly and I didn't encounter any weird issues over the last couple of weeks. The phone is currently running Android 14 and the Ulefone has promised to launch Android 15 by the end of Q2 in 2025 and also upgrade it to Android 16. Overall, this phone shows how far we can push hardware on a smartphone, adding a night vision camera, thermal camera, 10,600 mAh battery, a second display, 16GB of RAM, 1TB of storage, headphone jacks, a SD card slot, and the list goes on. It makes you wonder why some mainstream companies are so stingy when it comes to adding sensors and useful hardware, or at least not removing features like the headphone jacks. But of course, the downside is the weight of the phone and the limited software support compared to the larger companies. If you enjoyed this video and want to watch another crazy flagship phone with a built-in projector, watch this video next. Thanks for tuning into Techno, and I will see you in the next one.